gives a specific detail for the people who are going to implement. It is what is the bound. It's not just the only search criteria. It's a search criteria which is not going to be longer than 100 characters. Right? So that is written from the mind that, okay, I'm going to give this to somebody who is able to build a system, and then they should be able to do it for me. This one gives a view that, okay, if a customer is there, he can understand. For him, that 100 character, probably it's not that meaningful. Right? So you're going to see requirements written in either or format, or in some cases, you will see a blend of it. Now let's talk about type of requirements. At the categories, when you get a requirement for a given system or problem, you can break it down into two product categories. One is a functional, other one is a non-functional. And as a quality assurance person, you need to make sure you understand both of those categories. The functional essentially talks about what is the business function it needs to do it, what are the inputs, what are the outputs system needs to produce, and in this scenario that there's going to be some issues, what should happen? Right. So for example, if I'm searching a book, okay, so what is the input I'm providing? I'm providing it the name of the book. Processing tells me that, okay, I want you to search not only in your store, but all the other stores in this area and a warehouse. So if I'm across 5 different cities, I don't want you to search on the other cities. I just want you to search on the city. Right? That's a business functional processing requirement. What happens if I find 3 books which meets your criteria for the search? Then what should I do? What if I don't find any? What if I find only one? Right? What if they type a number instead of a name? ISBN number, right? What am I supposed to give as an error? So those kind of things that's defined as a functional requirements. Non-functional requirements talks about the characteristic of the systems, not the features of the systems. For example, right, talks about the physical environment. Who should be able to search on? From where? You can just say, hey, only the people who can perform that search functionality are going to be the store employees. Okay? Then you identify, hey, this is not going to be available from where. Somebody needs to be physically in the store in order to call that function. Okay. If I go and interface it with the systems of publisher to say, hey, whether you have it print available, what should be the interface? What should be the data sets that I send it? What order that data should be with? Right? Those are non-functional requirements. It gives it additional information on top of the functional, like what should be the characteristic of the system. It may also talk about how long I want to store the data, how long I want to keep the search. Do I want to maintain a search history, or do I want to maintain a search history? Do I want to maintain the search history per user, or do I want to maintain a search history across all the users? That kind of things. Okay. We talked about who are the users, what are their skill levels. Right? So what is expected that when a user tries to use the system, what should they already know about it? Right? For example, the one that we are talking about, Rflow, when an employee at the dealer shop tries to put a request, well, do they have the necessary skill to put a request? Because that requires a whole bunch of additional information that I need to collect. Okay. There are other aspect would be is performance, right? So when I search a book, how much seconds before I should expect the results? So in other words, if I don't get it in 3 seconds, should I terminate the search? What should do it? And it's a very important, the systems which are very time sensitive. For example, if I'm doing a stock trading, right, I want to make sure I get the latest and greatest price at this millisecond. Because, believe it or not, there's billions of dollars difference it makes it if it's instead of a 1 millisecond, if it is 1.5 milliseconds in terms of trading. Right? So, that could be that. In some systems, it may not make that much difference, right? In some, it does. So you need to understand that characteristic. Chip mentioned about security. How secure it should be. Hey, if I'm like it's doing a Google search on non-classified information, like I don't care much. But if I'm talking about searching it within the company's bound in a intellectual property wise, well, I want to make sure that nobody else from outside can get into the company's internal system and search on it, because that is a lot more sensitive information. If I'm an Apple employee working on the next set of products, I don't want people to be hacking in and doing it, right? Because there's a lot of trademark and intellectual property related issues associated with it. Those kind of things you need to do. Another aspect is, okay, you're talking about a system. What should be uptime of the systems? How long it can tolerate the downtime? Right? So what is the normal hours of run business operation? Is it 24/7 system? Or is it only when my store is open, which it can be from 8 to 8? So you need to know that, right? Because that's a characteristic of the system that you need to validate and test it. If my system crashes it, how long before it can restore it back to the normal state? Another aspect is how long before it fails? And it's a mean time between failure. Those kind of things. My advice is remember this slide by heart for the rest of your life if you're going to be a QA person. Anytime anybody says any requirement to you, you need to make sure that you run that requirement through 3C and a T criteria. Okay? The 3C is correct, consistent, and complete. T is testable. Can you verify and test it? Anytime you look at the requirements, you need to first make sure, is it correct? Okay. Correct by means, if they say, hey, the system should respond back within 2 milliseconds. First question is going to be is, do you want it in 2 milliseconds? Is this correct that you're expecting the response in 2 milliseconds? To make sure that is it correct. Second thing, is it consistent? So if a user says, hey, a system should respond in 2 milliseconds at one place. In other places, it should respond back in 2 seconds. In the third attached document, it says, oh, system should respond back in a reasonable time. Well, which one do you want to test it against? Which one do you want to verify against? Not the case, it's not consistent. You need to make sure when they give you a whole set that it's consistent. Even if you're doing an agile, right? And if they give you a new requirement, and you said, hey, wait a minute, in the previous iteration we implemented it to be this. You're saying this. Does it mean it changed? Or do you want to keep old, and this is error? What is it? Right? And the third one is it complete? Do you have enough information to make sure you understood that requirement? Example of agent that we talked about. Right? From the description, it doesn't tell me whether it's user or it's not a user. It could be user, it could not be. Right? So, is it complete? In some cases, you're going to talk about, am I going to interact with other systems? Do I have enough information to what exactly I need to interface with that other system? Right? So all desired properties are present. But in some cases, they may say, hey, look into the details in attachment A of the document. When you look at the document, there is no attachment A. What is it? Right? Is it complete or not? Right? So That's the first thing that you should take it. If anybody gives you any requirement, first three things you need to do it is it complete, correct, and consistent. Then you need to make sure that is every requirement talks something that is important to the customer. Okay. If it's a functional requirement, it better be a direct relationship. If it's a non-functional requirement, there may be indirect relationship for the expectation of the system. Right? But once you have those three defined, you need to say, can I verify and can I test it? So if they say that response time should be 2 milliseconds, and the only tools you have it is the clock on your hand, do you think you can validate 2 millisecond response time? Right? So at that point, it's not testable from your point of view. Now if they say, hey, we will give you a tools to automatically measure when that transaction starts and the transaction ends, then you have a ability to do that. So you should ask that question. Can I verify that requirement? If they say. If I can't, then I should ask the question. How do you expect me to validate that this feature meets the requirement? Another thing you're going to see it is as you move it from the first phase of the life cycle, which was planning, going all the way to the acceptance, you need to have ability is how your requirements are fulfilled. Right? So you need to make sure your requirements are traceable. So if they say something in the requirements, when you test the final product and the system, you should be able to say, hey, when I do this feature, that's when that requirement is met. That needs to be traceable. Any questions for 3C and a T meetings? Okay. So, let's quickly talk about how do I collect the requirements, right? So a lot of times there is a specific called business analyst who is responsible to collect all these requirements. But it's important for you as a QA person also to understand that requirement because you're going to be asking a question for 3C and T, right? So anytime it's inconsistent, right, you want either to be sitting with the end users and asking them their questions, or you want to make sure that that feedback goes to business analysts who can ask their questions. So typically, this slide talks about how did you go about collecting a requirement. Somebody gives you just a one-pager like I gave you in problem description. How do you go about then take that one-pager and get the needed information and detail it out in the requirement and analysis phase to collect the requirements down. So some of the things you do it is kind of set up a context-free questions, right? Identify with the customer, what are you trying to achieve from the systems? What are your goals and benefits, right? We did the exercise to identify who all are the players, who are the stakeholders, right? Then you want to go and talk to each of the stakeholders and say, okay, from your viewpoint of view, what exactly you're expecting it from the systems? How are you expecting it to use the system? So you want to get a good understanding of the problem, and sometimes you may just draw it on a piece of paper and say, okay, do you want system to look like this, or do you want this screen to be look like this, or do you want it to look like this, right? So you may kind of just frame or propose solutions or screen layouts and get that feedback and say, hey, you really want this, or do you want this one? Okay. Another important thing you need to do it is, hey, you want to make sure you talk to all the stakeholders, right? If you were going to talk to 10 people and you talk to all 10 dealers, do you think you were going to get all the requirements from lenders or agents or others? You won't, right? So you want to make sure you assess the effectiveness of your meetings with the people and set the right cross-section of the users. Now, the next thing is what it talks about requirement definition. So instead of going through it, here is what we're gonna do. Flip the third tab in your folder, so the one after the exercise tab. Okay, you should see a folder starting something like this. Requirement specification document. Did everybody find it? So, it's a homework time.
So you don't have this
Okay.
one tab. This is the guy. Alright.
So,
And then the next one, the yellow one?
so there are
So you don't.
two documents I want you guys to read it between now and Thursday.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Okay? So the first one is requirement specification document. Right after that, there is something called a system design document. So if you keep about 27, 28 pages down, the next document, yeah, just keep going through it, right? The next page document is our phone system design document. Okay. So right after the requirement specification document gets over, the system design document starts. There. Yeah, no, not that page. Yep. This one. Okay. Did everybody find both the documents?
No. Got it?
Once you're done with that,
Mark those things go down. Yep, you good.
raise your hand if you're not able to find those two documents. Not the test plan. You just want your requirements and the system design document. System design document. Yeah, right now.
Mark this thing.
So mark both the documents.
Mark those things go down.
So you keep reading that till you hit the third one, which talks about test plan document, okay? I don't want you to read the test plan document, just read the first two. Okay? Everybody get the first two? Okay. That's a good one. So you want to read it from here to here, this many pages. That's what you want to do. Okay. So it's about 55, 60 pages. And this is one of the very small systems. Again, there are two documents. Okay. What I want you guys to do it between now and Thursday is read that document. You may have to read a couple of times. Okay? And it is okay if you read through first time and you said, I have no idea what the heck is taught in this document. That's completely normal. Okay? What it is that, remember we went through that one paragraph discussion? After we apply that requirements collection phase, or analysis phase, that's the output document with the details given so that you understand what feature system needs to be. Okay? And we talked about two different types of requirements document, right? One is from customer viewpoint and one is from the system's viewpoint. So the system design document, it's kind of integration of the detailed specifics, plus it also gives you a little bit more of how the system is designed, right? So it is a combination of going from the analysis phase into part design phase. Okay. So I want you guys to read it and understand it. And then look through it for a couple of things. when you read that document, specifically the requirement specification document, I want you to apply that slide that I taught, 3C and T. It says, do you understand, based on what is described in there, complete feature of what needs to be built in that system, operating system? Okay. In some cases, if it's not complete, I want you to go look into the system design document and see if there is an information that you're looking is present in there or not. Okay. And just try to make him understand. And it is completely okay if you don't understand the whole thing. Okay. But what I want you to do is read those two documents and come up with the questions that you may have on Thursday. Okay. There's only two ways we're going to be silent on Thursday. A, you don't read the document. Two, you read the document and you exactly know what needs to be built, exactly how it's going to be built, and you can say I can build a system and test the system just based on that. Okay? And this being your first time going around, I'll be very, very surprised that you have a justification to stay silent on Thursday. Okay. What I'm trying to stress it here is that from now onwards, the more you are engaged and following it up with the things that we talk in the class, the more benefit you will get it in terms of getting ready. Okay. Harshal and I can tell you everything is about it, but it's the whole course is the reason why we want to set it up that way is it's about you doing it. It's about you getting the experience of what you will end up doing it when you go find a job in a QA, what you will be doing on a day-to-day basis. Right? So we went through one exercise of taking the business problem, right? We spent only like what, 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes? Right. But it was very clear, right? That we all had a different understanding just by reading that page. Right? So I want you guys to read those two documents and raise the questions. So that's going to start your process of learning, 370. So one of the other things, part question, right? We talked about what is the involvement of QA in the plan. Now, in the analysis, the role of QA is understand all the requirements and make sure it follows 3C and the T rule. If it doesn't, then you should raise the question. Because remember, at this point, nothing is built. It's a lot more cheaper to fix something that is not built, right? Let's go back to the house analogy, right? If you find a fault into the architecture, it's better for you to fix it there instead of build a house and then realize it and then demolish and rebuild it. Right? So that's where we're going to take a break today, is with those two documents, and then Thursday we'll pick up on those two documents, and then next Saturday we'll pick it up from where we stop at in the presentation. Okay? Any questions?
So we are coming on Thursday, next Thursday.
You're coming on this Thursday,
Thursday, yeah.
6:30 to 8:30. Okay. Read the documents. You have both Harshal's and my email address on the first page of the slide. If you have a question in between that you think that you can't wait till Thursday, shoot an email to us. Okay? Or when you come on Thursday, come with a highlight, pick questions, and hey, let's walk through it, right? And we'll walk through that document, right? Not line by line, but we'll go through the construct and say, okay, have that information on the slide. So you want to get a image put in your mind after you read the documents of how do you think the system is going to work.
So we make points or make summary of everything.
Whatever way you feel it is,
Draw the
you
picture.
help you to understand. Okay. The question is, as we go through this, that requirement is what your understanding of how the system is going to be built, and you need to be building it at test cases and plan to validate that the system is built according to that. So if you don't understand certain things, right, how are you gonna build the things that's gonna validate it? So that's the whole purpose of that. That's why it's in a requirement phase. The quality assurance person gets engaged to make sure that they understand what is being asked. They understand, is what is being asked, is it reasonable, and can you validate it or not? Alright?
And we will record Thursday session, so just in case if you can't make it,
Oh, what
we
should
will
we
send you link afterwards. Okay.
We have to get everybody's Gmail address.
Yes. So give me like 5 minutes.